Good morning, everyone. This is Ron Wilkerson. Today we're going to take a look at Retouch Pro, the Photoshop panel. I've had a couple of questions concerning how they would utilize this on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you're a new photographer or you are an experienced photographer and you're looking for a way to speed up your workflow, this could be the perfect tool for you. There are a number of ways that you can do these same procedures, skills that you can acquire over time. You can create your own actions because basically that's what these panels do. They utilize what Photoshop already is able to do. It just makes it much, much faster for you to speed up your workflow. So let's take a look at what Retouch Zone has to offer. So if you want to go over to their website, it will be linked in the description below, but you can visit their website at retouchzone.com. And you can scroll down and take a look at some of the features that are available from this panel itself. So right now, they're on version 2.0, and one of the features, one of the major things that they're promoting is the fact that there's over 157 editing functions built into this panel to speed up your workflow. Hey, that's a win. It is 100% compatible with Photoshop. I am currently using an M1 Mac, and I've had no problems whatsoever utilizing this plugin, this panel. So if you scroll down a little bit further, there are some AI components to this panel, and I'll demonstrate those to you guys here in just a few minutes. If you go a little further down, it basically just reiterates what I'd said before. There's 157 functions built into the panel. There's a number of different custom looks that you can utilize and things like that. So we'll also look at that. And also, if you go to their website, there's a number of different tutorials that are already on their website that can help you get started. You'll see some reviews from people who have actually used the panel. That's always good to see. And here's the different panels that are available depending on which of the areas you've clicked on. So you have a number of different things that you can work with here. So you have the face AI. Let's go a little further down. You can change the color of clothing, things like that. That's always cool if you're doing something fashion, or maybe you're working with new models, or it could even be something like high school, where there's a need to change the clothing, something like that. Then you have some of the looks that you can create here. You have glamour, you have cinema. A number of different presets that are built in that you can utilize for the finishing of your images. And you also have selective color. You can do a little bit of color grading in this panel, which is always good. And we go a little bit further down. Here's the finishing, which will allow you to adjust your background, contrast, and even save your image. So all of those things are built into the panel. Anything that's going to speed up your workflow is a win. So let's jump right into it and let's get started. All right, guys, we're back over here in Photoshop. So the first thing that I'm going to do here with this image that I'm going to be demonstrating on is I'm going to go ahead and clean up this image. Because as you see here, there are a few little imperfections. There's a scar, a few flyaway hairs. But you can speed this up, significantly if you do these things ahead of time. So what I'm going to do first, because I noticed the image is a little dark, I'm just going to do it the easy way. So I'm going to jump over into Camera Raw, and I'm just going to raise the exposure just a touch. Let's take a look at that. Looks pretty good. Let's check our contrast. Yeah, that looks good. So let's work with that. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to duplicate, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that you guys are able to see everything that I'm doing here. So we're going to look at my layer stack, and the first thing I'm going to do is hit Command J, which is going to duplicate my layer, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to start cleaning up some of these imperfections. So usually what I start off with is removing the things that should be removed. Now, she has freckles. I would not remove the freckles. And I'm going to speed this up because I don't want you guys to have to sit here for hours watching me edit a photo. I just want you to get the basic understanding of how this works. I am using an iPad somewhat as a graphics tablet. So in some cases, it definitely helps to speed up my workflow because I'm getting a little bit more accuracy. So like if I want to go in here and I want to remove like these little hairs in between her eyebrow, I can just go in and select these really quick, as you see here. Now, if you don't have an iPad or a Wacom tablet or something like that, you can still do this with a mouse. So you're not limited to, investing in, other gear if you're not comfortable with that. I would say look for something that's going to create dual purpose. So if you're going to invest in a tablet, great. Find you a tablet that you're comfortable with. A lot of people love the Wacom tablet, and they wouldn't even edit anything without it. I don't have one. I have an older tablet that I got a few years back, and I never really embraced it, and that's my fault. But I have an iPad Pro 12-inch, so I said, hey, why not use this? With Sidecar, I can connect this directly to the Mac, and I can go in and share my Mac screen and use full Photoshop, not the iPad version of it, and get the job done. And no, I'm not going to do all of these. I'm just showing you what you can do, right? So if we look at this image, like I said, there's a lot of flyaways. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a few of these just so you can see how well this works. Like I said, you don't have to do all of these because a lot of this you will catch a lot of this when you get to frequency separation, things like that. You will catch a lot of this. You'll be able to remove a lot of it that way. Okay, so that's good enough. Let's see if there's anything else large that we need to look at. A few little things. The first thing that I always think about when I start editing an image is, who's going to be viewing this? How is this image going to be displayed? Is this going to be something on Instagram, or is this something that's going to be, a campaign that's going to be printed? Or because I have clients that'll come in that are doing stuff for like CD covers and book covers. So yeah, then with those, you want to spend just a little bit more time getting as much of the details right as possible. Most of the time, all of those things they wouldn't see. But again, we're using this image as an example. Okay, so let's say we've done all of our touch-up and we're happy with that. Okay, so now we have our two layers. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to open our panel, and you have a number of options here. So like I said before, she does have, and I think there's these beauty marks, they want to keep these in. If you start off the easy way, which most people will do, they'll just say, okay, I'm just going to click on easy, and that's going to generate exactly what I need, and then I'm just going to start brushing away. And I'll speed some of this up, so you guys can get an idea of exactly what I'm talking about. So what you have here is a black layer. So you want to make sure that white is selected in your palette and that you have chosen your brush. Always go in and check your brush size. Make sure you have a soft brush. If you're using a Wacom tablet or an iPad, then you can choose a different brush. You can use one of the pressure size brushes or something like that. So like say the round pressure brush, one of the soft brushes, any one of those. But for right now, we're just going to stick with what most people are going to have. So we're going to go with the soft round brush, right? So from there, just hit enter. And then we're just going to start painting away, right? So we start painting, and right off, you're going to see what's happening. You see the moles are disappearing, right? Right away. All of those are going away. And this may or may not be exactly what you want. So if this is not what you want, then this easy approach may not work as well for you. So zoom in, make sure you're getting all the areas. And like I said, I'm just going to do this really, really quick. I'm not trying to be as accurate as I would normally be. I just want you guys to get a really good idea of what this panel can do for you when it comes to speeding up your workflow. So if you hold down Alt and click on the layer mask here, you can see exactly where you painted, right? So you can go back to your brush, as I'm doing here, and you could raise the size of your brush. So let's say we're going to make our brush a little bit bigger so that we get more coverage. Then we could just go in here and just really start painting this in as an example, right? Because you can kind of see where you've missed out. And a good tip is to do an outline in the beginning so you can see exactly where, when you're in this mode, what you're missing. And it doesn't matter. You could really just paint over the entire face at this point, because you'll be able to bring back all of the details in the next step. So let's speed this up. Pretty much we're doing this real time. And I'm just going to go ahead and speed this up as best I can. Get all the little details in. And what you're going to see once we go back, I guarantee you, is that all of the moles will be gone. And like I said, that may be something that, because you're working with someone with acne or some, large skin imperfections, and you want to remove all of those, Alt, click on that again, and you'll see where we are, right? So now you see the eyes are very blurry, the lips are very blurry. So the way to correct that is to come down here and switch this palette from white to black. And then you should be able to go in and just paint over the eyes and bring back all of that detail. Eyelash. Go back into the eyebrows. And again, like I said, I'm doing this quick just so you guys can get the idea of how this works. And you can bring all of that detail back. Now, I think there is a much better way to do this, and that's what we're going to look at next. But just for now, we're going to go in here and bring her lips back. Eyes are sharp again. And remember, when you're using these pens or pencils, they're very pressure sensitive. So let's see what we got. Click on that. You can see here, just like before, we could go in and tighten that up a little bit, right? Okay, so let's go back, zoom in a little bit. Let's turn it off and on, and you see the difference. Now, you can also lower the opacity. Maybe you don't want it to be quite that blurry. Now, if you see by me lowering the opacity, I still got some skin smoothing, but I was able to bring a lot of the moles back because I'm at about 27%. But let's say when we get up to here about 50, you still see them. They're there. And if you wanted to take the time, you could go back in like I did with the eyes, and you could bring those back just in those specific areas. Okay? So that's one way to do it. So for a lot of people, that's exactly what they want. That's everything they need it to be. They're happy with that, right? But in my case, what I would want to do is I would want to have a little bit more control. So what I would normally do is I would say, okay, well, that's not going to work for me, so I'm going to delete that entire stack. And I would do it more, most likely from more frequency separation. So we still have our two layers where we did our corrections. And let's turn that layer back on. So we're going to go ahead to frequency separation and allow it to create the layers. Then you're going to open your folder, and you have a high and a low. So if you are removing texture, anything that would be considered texture, like say for instance an imperfection, a hair, or something like that, you want to do that on the high layer. If you're going to be trying to blur the skin to give it the blurry skin effect, then you're going to be focusing on the low layer, okay? So let's make sure, let's put this back to black and white. But the difference is you're going to go in and you're going to choose your mixer brush. And with your mixer brush, you're going to pick the certain areas of the skin and you're going to be mixing those together. So we're going to just turn off the high layer. So all we can see is the low layer. So just to give us a little bit of help, we're going to go in here and create a black and white layer. And we're going to bring the radius down a little bit. And that's just so that we can see what's going on. We're going to delete this layer, so don't worry about this layer being here. So for now, let's say we're going to go in and we're going to start just mixing, right? So let's get my mixer brush. And we're going to go in and we're just going to start mixing these colors. And you want to always mix like colors together. Don't mix them, from shadows into light areas. Only the light areas. And you'll get the effect that you're looking for. So again, we're going to speed this up. I just want you to see the difference. You're using your mixer brush, and you're able to go in and just mix those areas. And this black and white layer, what it allows you to do is to see exactly where the transitions happen, so that you're able to go in really precisely and mix those layers together. Like here on the chin is light, but underneath the chin is a little bit darker. So you want to mix those separately underneath the lip. And we're just doing this, like I said, as quick as possible right here on the nose. Now be careful when you are using frequency separation on areas like the nose or any of the hard lines, because it will change the shape of the face a little bit. But you'll kind of get the idea. So let's say we're happy with that. Let's turn off our black and white layer, and we can see a before and after. So I'm going to turn off the lower layer. Let's turn that one on. Whoops, that off and that on. And then we're going to turn that off and back on, off and back on. So you see many ways that you can soften skin without being destructive. So you're able to maintain all of the texture in the skin, but still even out all of the tones of the skin. But again, like I said, it really depends on, how you want to utilize this panel. Now, my workflow, the way I see it, is that usually what I do is I look at the panel and I say, okay, what do I want to do first? So the first things I'm going to be doing is skin. So I've already done frequency separation. Maybe I will go in and run texture and have that set up, ready to go. And then the next thing that I might want to do is going to be, so then maybe the next thing I wanted to do is going to be skin tone. So I would go ahead and run that one just so I have it ready. Okay, so I got my skin tone. And then all of the things that I would normally use. So let's say dodge and burn would be one of those. And maybe at the end, I'm going to do something like skin glow. So that way I have all of my different layers ready to go. And usually what I will do is I will take all of them and group them. And that's going to be Command G. And then you would name whatever you want that group to be named. So we're going to just say skin. And now all of your layers are under that one folder. So you could go in here and you could just start off with, and it's helping to keep your panel, your layer stack very organized. So we're going to go ahead and just move this into that stack. All right. So that's all of our different layers. Boom, good. So we're going to delete all of these, remove all the groups. Let's go back to our panel, and we're going to take a look at the AI that I spoke about before, because I know a lot of people are asking me about the AI and how does it work. So go to face, and let's move her over a little bit. Let's go ahead and close this panel. So let's start with eyes. So if you click on eyes, and you have three different things that you can do here: the eye dimension, the eye height, and the eye width. So let's start off with eye dimension. So if we add the eye dimension, and we're going to go to the extreme, and you start to see how the eyes are spreading apart. And if you go to your layer stack, you're going to see multiples. I think, yep. See how big those got? That's pretty crazy. And it's still going because I clicked on it quite a few times. Now, if you're trying to do something like really cool for your YouTube channel or something like that, and you want, really bizarre looking things, I mean, that's kind of what you get here, right? So let's look at our layers, put that back in that stack and open that up. Okay, so as you see here, we have quite a few of these. And if you start turning them off, they'll start to get smaller and smaller. Now, we wouldn't want all of these, right? You know, that would be crazy. So let's just go in here and delete quite a few of these. Maybe down to like the last one. Then you have your eye height. So if you click on that, and what it does is it basically raises the eyes. So we turn it off and on. Let's do it a few more times. Let's not click on as many times as I did before, because remember what happened. So we'll turn off the lower one. Then before, after, before, after. Now this also works in reverse. So if for some reason you needed to make the eyes smaller, you could do the same thing. Then you have your eye width, which makes the eyes wider. Just see here, off, on. We'll just leave that. Then we could go to nose. So you can adjust the nose height as well as the nose width. So let's say if we want to make the nose smaller for some reason. So if we turn that off. So a lot of this works just like it would be if you were using Liquify and the face feature in Liquify. It's basically the same thing. It gives you the same type of control. Now, Liquify, I believe in some ways, gives you a little bit more granular control. So it just depends. So again, let's move on. So let's go to mouth. So here, let's say we want to increase the smile. That will change somewhat the shape of the face, the mouth. You just see there. I'll just keep going a bit. Give it a chance to catch up. Okay, so there you see we've given her somewhat of a smile. Looks a little weird. Let's get rid of that. The upper lip. So if you look at the upper lip here, and let's go back to teeth, oh, face, mouth. And I'm going to hit this a couple of times. And you see how much larger it made the lip, right? So let's turn one of these off. 4, before, after. And then if you did the same with the bottom lip, you know, everyone wants that Instagram look with the pouty lips and things like that. So, you know, if that's what you're going for, boom, you got it. There it is right there, built into the panel. So let's move on. And the next thing is going to be form. And this one is designed to augment the shape of the face. You could adjust the forehead. So if you wanted to make the forehead smaller, you could do that. And again, like I said, a lot of the things that you find in this panel, if you wanted to make the chin smaller or larger, say for instance, maybe we want to make the chin larger, as well as the jawline. Let's say we want to make that smaller. You see how it brings the face in? And then same as with the face width. You could make it wider, or you could make it smaller. So overall, when you look at this panel, there are so many different features that you can utilize here to get exactly what it is you want. So if you go back to the first panel, you have, let's get rid of all of these, first of all. So you can clean up your eyes. So let's say, for instance, you want to lighten her eyes. We go back to what I said before. Usually I go in and I choose all of the different things that I'm going to be using for that specific, part of the body, right? So, iris, of course, I would do some whitening. I probably wouldn't do any color, changing the color of the eyes, the pupil, as well as vein removal. So then I'd have all of those here stacked together. And if I close these, you'll see them all here, right? So I could go in here and I could say, okay, well, where do I want to start? Maybe I want to start with whitening the eyes. So we know that's going to be a white brush on this black layer. And I could go in here and I could just start painting in. If I select my brush, make sure it's a white bright brush. And that's way too much, so we're going to bring that saturation way down. And then I could just go in and just paint in there if I wanted to whiten the eyes. But my procedure is normally the first thing I would do is I would go in and I would remove any veins from the eyes, right? So we're going to go back and we're going to go to, that's an iris. And we want to go to, we don't want pupil, we want to go to our so there's our whiten eyes, there's our pupil, and there's our iris. So I think I may have missed the vein. So let's run that again. So here's our vein removal, which will allow me to go in and just paint away the red veins, same as here. Just remove those. And then, if I wanted to whiten the eyes, then of course I could go in and do that as well, right? So I was going to whiten the eyes. Now I can come in and just paint in here and just whiten the eyes. Close that real quick. And then the final thing with the eyes, let's see if you want to do the iris. You can paint there, make that darker. Make that darker. I think that's enough for the eye enhancement. Actually, that looks like it's a little bit too much, so I'm going to bring that down. But then you could go to the entire folder and you can say, okay, well, that's too much, so I want to adjust it like here. And I'm happy with that. Boom, it's done. Same as with the vein removal. If it's too much, you could go in and correct it, not a problem. So again, guys, like I said before, you know, this panel gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility when it comes to speeding up your workflow. Now, if your first time loading this and you've never seen this panel before, but you've installed it, you're going to go here under Window, Extensions, and you're going to look for your panel. Whatever panel that you have listed, it'll be here. So if it's, you know, your beauty retouch or whatever it is that you have, just click here and it'll show up here. Now, I have them set up in a stack from different panels that I use. So it's real easy for me to just go here and say, okay, I want the retouch panel. And, you know, that's the one that I want to work with today. So there we go. So again, we looked at frequency separation, we looked at eyes, we can look at, you know, mouth and teeth. You can add lipstick. Her lips are very, very nice colored, so we're not going to, you know, touch on that right now. You can add a little bit of wet lips, and what that does is just adds, it's almost like dodging and burning for the lips. It just adds a little shine to them. You can make the lips glow a little bit. So a lot of these, you just really want to play with them, you know, and figure out what's going to work best for you. Now under hair, you have a lot of the same features that you would have for skin. You have a hair enhancer. You do have hair dodging and burning, so it's the same thing. You know, you could go in and adjust the highlights. You know, you can dodge your highlights and burn your shadows. You know, if you want to bring in a little bit more detail to the hair, you can also change the color of the hair, and then you can also adjust the sharpness of the hair. So if you want to do a lot of detail work, say for instance you're working with a salon and they're trying to really capture, you know, a really cool hairstyle they've done or something like that, boom, there you are. There's other things in this panel. Let's go a little bit quicker. Let's see if we can move through these a little bit faster. So if we go to, again, here's what I talked about before. You can change the color of clothing. You can dodge and burn the clothing, and you can also enhance the details. So if we go here under presets, you have different presets. For instance, let's say we wanted to do something really glamorous with this image. If we're finally finished with the image, and we've, let's say we flattened our image, and we say, okay, well now we want to do our color grading. So let's say I would go in here and choose glamour as an example. Now that's way over the top, but again, like I said, you can bring the opacity down. And if you're not happy with that, just don't use it. Go to the next one. Trial and error to see which one works best for that image. Now that gives it a little bit more of a warmer look. I like that, but it's still a little bit too much. So I'd bring that down to about 50%, somewhere in there. But if you don't want that one, move on. So you have some cinema looks down here. You have a vintage, retro. You have cinema. Let's look at this Cocoa. And that kind of gives you like a sepia look. I like that. I could see that applied, maybe in the shadows. So here's just a few of them. So let's just remove that one. And all of this comes with this panel. That's just amazing for what you're paying for. You also have overlays, so you can do snow, you can do rain, you can do different sun effects. So let's say for one, we run here. If you just want to put just a touch, just a kiss of sunlight in, or something like that, you can play with it. So your clients, the image that you're trying to achieve. The panel is just here to speed up your workflow. So here's some other split toning that you can play with. The teal and blue is very popular. So here are those two colors. You can see how it's masking it here. And if you bring the saturation down a little bit, let's bring that down to about 23. And I usually go in and look at how much we're getting per channel. And then we could go in and bring that down just a little bit more. Maybe about 40%. Looks pretty good. So you're only limited by your imagination when it comes to this. And then at the very end, like I said before, you have your detail work. You can go in and do your final detail. You can add grain, to give it that authentic film look. You can, do different blur effects. And, these background effects, for dodging and burning, you have contrast, your final contrast of the image. So let's say we click on that. Now that's a lot. So let's bring that back down. Somewhere in there. It's not bad. But it also depends on the image. Things that work on one won't work on the other. And I mean, as a photographer, all of you guys already know that. So I'm not telling you anything new. I just wanted you guys to get a good look at this panel and figure out if this is something that could work for you in your workflow. Right now, I know they're running a special where you can, so you can get it for a lifetime for $39, well, basically, let's say $40 or $38. Or you could do a subscription, which is $19 or $20 per year. And that's going to give you all the upgrades, 400, presets included. So you got a lot of different things you could get if you decided you wanted to go the route of the yearly, subscription. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So your choices are $38 or $19 a year, $20 a year. Honestly, if I had to compare the two, I would probably go with the $20 a year because that's almost guaranteeing that you're going to get any updates in the future. And it also comes with a number of other things that, the lifetime doesn't give you, which it doesn't give you the upgrades. Obviously, it doesn't give you the 400 high quality presets included. None of that's going to be included with just the one-time purchase. So I know, a lot of us, we're just going crazy and we're sick of, these subscription services, whether it's Adobe, whether it's, in the future, it's going to be Final Cut or, whatever it's going to be. But that's the future of, where we sit in this industry. So, we're just going to have to take it or leave it. All right, guys, I'm going to let you guys get back to your day and I'm going to get back to mine. Hopefully you've learned something and you gained something from this. There is a discount code. I'll leave it there in the bottom, but it's basically my name. So if you enter my name, Rome Wilkerson, you'll get a percentage off if you decide to purchase it for a lifetime. And, hopefully this is something that can help with your workflow. All right, guys, if you have not subscribed, please do so. Comment, ask any questions that you may have, put them down in the comments. I will be more than happy to do my best to answer them. If you follow me on any other social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, obviously YouTube, IGTV, I do my best, within the first week to respond to any questions that are asked. But if you are following me on Instagram, as an example, you can shoot me a message almost anytime. And as soon as I see it, I'll do my best to answer it. All right, guys, stay safe, wash your hands. I know we're not wearing masks anymore, but, hey, do what you can to stay safe so we don't wind up back in another situation like we were in 2020. All right, until then, that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Peace. I'm out.